Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another video. So we've been talking a lot about the Bad Batch Season 2 over the last few days, and while the show's now just 2 days away, today we're going to give it a break to discuss some other Star Wars updates. If you want the latest on the Bad Batch, go and check out the video I posted yesterday, where we go through some big details provided to us by the creatives on the show. And one more thing before we get into it guys, please be sure to do all the YouTube things, hit like on this video, share this video out there, subscribe, hit the bell, do all that good stuff. It really helps out with the algorithm as I'm trying to grow the channel in 2023. But no more jibber jabber, let's talk about The Mandalorian, and also stay tuned to the end of the video where we're going to talk about something really interesting for Yoda. So Giancarlo Esposito spoke with TV Line about the role that Moff Gideon will play in Season 3, but what's been really interesting to see is the reactions to this news, and how a lot of Star Wars fans are getting turned off by Moff Gideon as a character, given the recent leaks for the Ahsoka show and Skeleton Crew, where bigger villains and threats are going to emerge. Gideon by comparison might feel overplayed, and a little bit underwhelming, at least that's what I've seen from a lot of fans. He's already been bested by Din, and arrested by our heroes, so a lot of fans want to know how Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are going to build on his character once he escapes prison. In other words, fans want a reason to still care about Gideon in Season 3 without it being repetitive, cliche, or boring. I've even seen a couple of folks call him a mid-villain. Now we've got to remember that his ambitions are only somewhat clear. We don't really know the entire endgame. Of course, he wants to clone Palpatine to bring order back to the galaxy, and there were rumours, and big spoiler warning, that in Season 3 he's going to be sporting Mandalorian armour and a helmet, but his ultimate goal, while probably selfish and accruing personal power, are still unknown, and it seems like fans want a big climax for the character, a bigger role in the third season. Well, let's see what he said in his interview with TV Line. The Mandalorian, will Moff Gideon, quote, rise from the ashes in Season 3? Here's what they said. After being KO'd by the butt of Cara Dune's rifle and arrested, is the Moff still down for the proverbial count when the Mandalorian returns? Not much is known about Season 3, which has a Wednesday, March the 1st release date. The official synopsis vaguely promises that the Mandalorian and Grogu, quote, continue their journey through the lawless galaxy. But one villain who fans have not forgotten about is Moff Gideon himself, and Giancarlo Esposito answered the question, how much of Moff can viewers expect? He says, you're going to get some Moff Gideon. I mean, I always want more Moff Gideon, I've got to be honest with you, but you know, you're going to get a good amount of him. So does Gideon have any cards left to play after Season 2? How will his character expand? Giancarlo was reluctant to answer some of these questions, but he finished the interview by saying, quote, you always want to see the phoenix rise from the ashes, or you want to see a nefarious villain rise from the ashes. He said this with a wink, and believe me, he will. Very intriguing stuff indeed. Now Giancarlo has been the biggest advocate for this show. He loves the character, he loves being a part of the Star Wars universe, and he also teased that in Season 3 we're going to meet some of the other Imperial Remnants, not just Moff Gideon and Dr. Pershing's faction, but those who don't want the return of Palpatine, and they will do anything in their power to stop Moff Gideon getting there. So that's going to be interesting, that conflict. If you remember guys, in Toronto he did say these other remnants are bad news. They do not have the galaxy's interest at heart. They're warlords who have scavengers and bounty hunters on their side, and following Operation Cinder they realise Palpatine was a bit of a dick and they can form a new empire without him. Now speaking of Moff Gideon, I have seen a couple of fans suggest, what if he joins our heroes by the end? If the restoration of Mandalore is the big plot here, and Moff Gideon was a Mandalorian, or maybe a Mandalorian wannabe, is he going to realise that teaming up with Din might be the best solution, especially given other threats that are coming? Personally guys, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't see this happening. After all, Moff Gideon is very selfish, he's very villain-minded, he doesn't like Din or Bo-Katan, and very clearly if he was a Mandalorian at some stage, then he was on the Imperial side of it, very much like a Gar Saxon sort of guy. But let's see what happens. Those are the comments made by Giancarlo Esposito. Share your thoughts in the comments down below. And so now my dear friends, something a little bit different. Rian Johnson is once again talking about his 2017 Star Wars movie The Last Jedi, the movie that to this day divides the fandom whenever it's brought up. Episode 8 is one of those movies that gets Star Wars fans into hot debates and heated discussions, and that's more apparent than ever before following recent comments that Rian made concerning the way he structured his installment of the Skywalker saga. A common criticism of the movie is its ending. Many fans noted that it was too conclusive for the middle installment installment of a trilogy. Some even say it left J.J. Abrams with very little wiggle room for episode 9. It ended as if it was the end of a trilogy. It didn't have the to-be-continued nature to it, but as with every other decision in his movie, Rian Johnson is defending it once again, defending that ending. Speaking with The Atlantic, he noted, "In terms of the Star Wars movie I did, I tried to give it a hell of an ending. I love endings so much that even during the middle chapter of the trilogy, I tried to give it an ending, a good ending that recontextualizes everything that came before it and makes it a beautiful object unto itself." He says that's what makes a movie. It feels like there's less and less of that. Johnson goes on to explain that he feels as though the recent prevalence of creating intellectual properties in media is, quote, "a poisonous idea for storytellers." He doesn't like that franchises milk it. He says, "I love an ending where you burn the Viking boat into the sea." And a lot of Star Wars fans read between the lines and took this very badly. Now, with respect to Rian, who I believe is a phenomenally talented writer and director, I love Looper, Knives Out, and I recently watched and adored Glass Onion, but we've got to ask if this was the right approach to a Star Wars movie that acts as the continuation of the 7 films that came before it. This approach works as a standalone, but did it work as episode 8? Some fans have called his perspective selfish, rather than trying to stay true to the realm of George Lucas, or even what J.J. Abrams left with The Force Awakens. Now granted, it was J.J. who put Luke on that island, and not Rian, but we're talking about the ending. Now I will say that this movie has a lot going for it, and I do believe it will age better with time, but as I said, it would have worked better as a standalone Star Wars movie, rather than it being connected to the saga with all of these beloved characters. Rian wanting The Last Jedi to be conclusive left a lot of fans puzzled by the end of the movie, as it didn't finish with a cliffhanger, or even the sort of to-be-continued kind of ending that you would expect for a middle installment of a trilogy. Both The Empire Strikes Back and Attack of the Clones did have those by comparison, but Rian Johnson went in with the approach of this being a standalone as well as being episode 8, and some fans would argue you can't have it both ways. Share your thoughts on this in the comments down below. And so finally, my dear friends, let's talk about Yoda, because in the new comic series by Kevin Scott, in Yoda issue number 2, the Jedi Master makes a shocking decision, one that resembles what Yaddle did in the Dark Horse comics. After helping a backwater world fend off a band of raiders, Yoda elects to stay on the planet rather than return to the Jedi Council on Coruscant. The Council is not pleased with Yoda's decision, but even during the High Republic, his wisdom was respected, if not always entirely understood. Yoda, just like Yaddle in those comics, uses the Force to defend the natives, but stresses the importance of building one's own defenses as well. He says, "Need me you do not," insinuating they cannot rely on him forever. Now Yoda always wanted the Jedi to live amongst ordinary people. What ended up happening in the Clone Wars with the Jedi Knights being defenders of the Republic and basically soldiers was never what Yoda believed Jedi should be. In the sacred Jedi texts that we see in The Last Jedi, these contained many stories of Jedi helping others in need, and crucially, living among the ordinary people instead of living above them in a proverbial ivory tower on Coruscant. And Yoda wasn't the only Jedi Master who believed this. Evan Peel in the Legends book Jedi Twilight, which is the first book of Coruscant Knights, was made to live on the lower levels of Coruscant after Order 66, and just before he was killed by clones in Legends, he realised this is the way Jedi should live, living amongst poverty and helping those in need. Of course, Evan Peel in canon died during the Clone Wars series. But this Yoda comic series gives us a lot of perspective and a new appreciation for what Yoda believed the Jedi should be. For all of his mistakes, this is something Yoda did right, and in the past I covered the Yaddle comic where she did something similar. But thank you for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and if you want more videos not found here on YouTube, while also getting your name at the end of my videos, then click the link down there in the description. But until the next one, guys, may the Force be with you always.